Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
I'm telling you straight, it's my way or the highway.
Oh, command me, Lord. Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
I'll have what she's having.
You have chosen wisely.
It reminds us of all that once was good. And it could be again.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making.
It's the 30-something movie podcast. I was gonna try to figure out how to make the intro smaller since we're talking Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I was going to whisper it, but then I was worried people wouldn't be able to hear it, or I could somehow change the audio so I have this little tiny helium kind of voice sort of. I don't know. Then I just kind of come out sounding like a creepy Mickey Mouse.
True. You want to avoid the creepy Mickey Mouse.
Hi, kids. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that might cause nightmares.
Hi, kids. Want to see my van?
Oh boy.
Oh, it's late.
I've got candy. So anyway, yes, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We're not defiling Mickey Mouse in any way. But this is a Disney movie, so thank you to the mouse for all that he's done and all that stuff. Yeah. So very, very quickly, I've got Pat, I've got Bo with me tonight. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Oh, outstanding.
Very well, John. How are you?
Excellent. Well, I'm doing all right. I'm here with you guys and we're talking movies, so that makes everything all better.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right, very, very quickly, we spoil the movies we talk about, so if you start to hear a movie title, we may spoil it, so just be aware of that, and we're definitely going to spoil Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Spoiler alert, kids get shrunk.
That's deep. That's digging.
I thought I would just share that right now.
Digging through the clues.
It's just not a clever title.
I've thrown out the question, at least for the last couple of weeks. I threw out the question I tried the one time was, does the title live up to the movie, or does the title accurately reflect the movie? Because in this case, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right between the eyes.
Don't even have to discuss it. So anyway, spoiler alert. iTunes, if you have not left such a review on your favorite podcast listening service, please do so. iTunes in particular for algorithms and all that other fun stuff that gets us heard by more people. And if you have not visited our website, 30podcast.com is our website. So please go there. You can check out all the different ways that you can get in touch with the show, interact with us, voicemails, past episodes, all that fun stuff. So go on over there, 30podcast.com. I'm going to jump right on into This Week in 89. I don't know, at least as of the time that we're recording this, I don't know that I have a whole lot of new movie news. So if you gentlemen are ready to hop in the DeLorean.
1.21 gigawatts ready to go.
1.20, the only thing that could generate that kind of... Okay, question really quick. Do you think all three of us could fit in a DeLorean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I saw a mock-up at the Auto Museum a couple weeks ago, and I'm not so sure.
Okay.
It's kind of a two-person and a dog car.
Okay.
Unless Pat's riding on your lap, John, which I suppose is possible.
Well, hey.
It's been done.
Okay.
There we go.
Have you moving quickly on? Moving quickly on. Have either of you guys seen Cadillac Man?
No.
No. Okay. That's a movie that we're doing for next year. It's a Robin Williams movie. He's a car salesman, and there's a scene in which he's trying to sell cars, or if he doesn't sell a certain number of cars in one day, he's going to lose his job. And so they've got these different couples that come in that are kind of these caricatures of people. And one is this guy who is just really tall, but also really big. And he really wants this tiny little sports car. And he tries to wedge himself into this thing, and he finally gets inside, and he's like, "Don't you tell me what I want to buy. If I want this car, I want this sporty car." And he's trying to get him into something that he would fit into better. And he just kind of, you hear like it's almost like the balloon stretching sounds as he's getting into the car, and finally he gets in, and his wife is like, "Are you okay, honey?" He's like, "Yo, it fits great." So I kind of picture that would be us trying to fit into a DeLorean.
It might, that's like back in the day when how many people can you fit in a car?
Yeah. I had a Buick, so I could fit a lot of people in my car.
I had a Crown Victoria for a little while.
Wow.
I'm still squeezing people into that thing.
That's outstanding.
The cop car. There we go.
And my 3-body trunk, I used to call it.
There you go.
That's awesome.
See our earlier discussion from last week on the Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Mm-hmm. Well, my buddy had a Buick Century, and I could fit him, me, and the entire flag guard in the car.
There you go.
20 or 25 girls there, and I have proof that can be done.
There you go.
I think we'll leave that story right there.
I was going to say, I feel like I want the rest of that story sometime, but it doesn't have to be now.
Hold on, I'm changing up all of our 5 questions at the end of the episode.
Right.
They will all be related to this story now.
The wedding episode, I never explained how my buddy's wedding was kind of functioning as my bachelor party. So there's a couple of these stories that we'll put in the 30-something movie podcast After Dark episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've toyed around with the idea of on occasion, if we want to do like newer movies or things like that, that we could do like a Patreon. Patreon, some people donate and then they get access to other episodes that are just for subscribers only and things like that. I've kind of toyed around with the idea of doing something like that, where we have some extra episodes that if people want to get them, they can throw a couple bucks our way each month.
Right.
We could start a 30 podcast After Dark series of episodes if you want to. So
that's awesome.
I'm up for whatever you guys want to do. So
give us money. We'll tell you what we really think.
There we go. We've been lying to you for the past 261 episodes. All right.
I'll tell you what I really think of that. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you what I really think of River's Edge or Blue Velvet or.
Yeah.
What
you
is
give
that?
me unvarnished.
You got the sanitized version. All right. Well, this week in '89, for those of us, whoever can fit in the DeLorean with us, come on back to September 16th through the 23rd, 1989. There was a lot of stuff going on, particularly TV show-wise. There's a lot of stuff going on during this week in '89. Starting with September 19th. On September 19th, Doogie Howser, M.D., the series starring Neil Patrick Harris, debuts on ABC.
Look at that.
That was a great show.
Yeah.
Made me think at some point I could be a doctor.
You still can, John.
Then you saw blood.
Then I saw blood, and I almost fainted and threw up and said, nope. Also on September 19th, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 album was released. Janet, Miss Jackson, if you nasty. So September 22nd, Baywatch, starring David Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson, debuts on NBC.
There you go.
And then September 22nd, composer Irving Berlin dies at age 101.
Jeez. Good for him.
He was up there. He made it. Well, I mean, not now, but... All right. The top book was Clear and Present Danger. It was the same as last week. Tom Clancy, and I think it's going to sit there for several weeks now, so that you'll hear us repeat that several times.
He had a tendency to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it sits on that top book spot for maybe a month or two, at least.
Cool.
Top movie this time around was Sea of Love, directed by Harold Becker, starring Al Pacino, Ellen Barkin, and John Goodman. That was on our list of secondary movies that if for some reason we needed to move some stuff around, it was in like one of the top, because I'd never heard of it, I'd never seen it, but just the cast of characters, the actors that were in that movie, I put it on kind of a secondary list of, if we had extra time or extra space to put more episodes in, that one might be included in there just because of the Al Pacino, Ellen Barkin, John Goodman cast. But we didn't get around to that one for this year, and I'm not sure that we will. But hey, if we start 30 podcasts after dark, maybe we will.
Yeah.
Our first
Deep
episode.
cuts.
Our first episode. We'll do the whole thing in a Billy D. Williams voice. The Sea of Love. Hello, what have we here?
I just think that would be awesome.
Let's get it done. In fact, hey, you know what? He's probably done filming Rise of Skywalker. We could probably get Billy D. Williams to come on the show with us.
I think that would also be outstanding.
We'll call him up.
Oh my God, that would I can't even.
If we did, you would just melt into a puddle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll see what I can do. All right. And the top song this time around is "Don't Want to Lose You" by Gloria Estefan.
Right.
All right. So the movie this time around is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Came out on the 23rd of June, 1989, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour and 33 minutes, directed by Joe Johnston, who also did Captain America, the First Avenger, and The Rocketeer. Producer on this one was Penny Finkelman-Cox, who did Shrek and Snakes on a Plane.
Gotta love it.
I'm sorry, keep going. I love it.
I don't remember what year Snakes on a Plane is, but I can't wait to get to it.
That one goes on the list just because, right?
No, it'll
just a thing.
Yeah, if the Earth or we live that long, it'll be on the list.
You used to be able to call a number and have Samuel L. Jackson leave a message for someone on their voicemail, like as an ad for Snakes on a Plane.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever you'd call in, you'd put your, the number in, you'd like type in the person's name. So, because my brother did it to me, and then I would pass the love on, but it would be like, ring, 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 ring. And then it was Samuel L. Jackson. It was like, hello, my name's Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm calling on behalf of the movie Snakes on a Plane. So, and then it was like the pre-recorded, title. So, Patrick, get in your, and it would be like, you could put their car. It was sort of like a Mad Lib. You just called and like listed all these couple things. And then Samuel L. Jackson would call the person and leave the message about Snakes on a Plane. And it was awesome.
That's outstanding.
Yes. I will go on you. I'm going to go and like search for that. I'm going to use the Google and try and find examples of that to show you.
I want to know if the hotline is still up and running.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean,
Well,
yes.
and knowing how prolific of an actor he was in the 1990s and how many movies he was in the 90s, I wouldn't put it past him for it to not be a recording. Like I'd expect Samuel Jackson just to be sitting at home answering the phone, and be like, okay, what's the guy's name? Mm-hmm. Patrick. Okay, where is Patrick? He's in his car. Okay, got it. All right, I'm gonna call him right now. Patrick.
Yeah, it was outstanding. All right. So I'll do that, and if I can find it, I will send the link.
Patrick, this is Samuel Jackson. What? Say what again? Say
what again?
All right, back to the writers. Stuart Gordon. It's a little late, everybody.
All right, Stuart, I'll be quiet.
No, you're good. You're good. Stuart Gordon, Brian Yuzna, Ed Naha, and Tom Schulman did the story and screenplay for this movie. Gordon also did Reanimator. Yuzna did Bride of Reanimator. Naha did the cartoon series The Adventures of Sinbad. Schulman did Dead Poet Society and What About Bob. Cinematography was done by Hiro Narita, who also did The Scorpion King and Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Music was done by James Horner, who died in 2015. He did Titanic, The Rocketeer, and Braveheart. Budget was $18 million. Box office was $222.7 million. The reviews on this one, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 75%. Audience gives it a 54%. IMDb gives it a 63, Letterboxd a 62, and CinemaScore gives it an A. Rick Moranis played Wayne Selinsky. I think I said that right. Selinsky? Yeah. He was in Little Shop of Horrors, Spaceballs, and Ghostbusters. Matt Frewer played Big Russ Thompson. He was in Watchmen and Fear the Walking Dead and Max Headroom. Marcia Strassman, who died in 2014, played Diane Selinsky. She was in Welcome Back, Kotter and the TV series MASH. Christine Sutherland played Mae Thompson. She was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV series. Thomas Brown played Little Russ Thompson. He was in Silverado. Jared Rushton played Ron Thompson. He was in Big and Overboard. Amy O'Neill played Amy Selinsky. She was in The Young and the Restless, the TV series. And Robert Oliveri played Nick Selinsky. He was in Edward Scissorhands. Here is the trailer, and we'll be back in just a moment.
It was a quiet Saturday morning.
Zelensky, give it a rest. It's Saturday.
Professor Wayne Zelinsky was hard at work on his new invention.
This thing works. It'll put us right up there with the invention of electricity.
That didn't quite work.
Did you get the machine to work?
A few more bugs to get out.
Then something quite unexpected
Where are
happened.
the kids?
I haven't seen him since I left this morning.
It shrunk the kids.
Nick, what happened?
It works. Diane, I got something real important to tell you.
Are you trying to tell me?
The machine works? Do the kids know?
Well, yeah, the kids know.
That's great.
It's not that great.
Why?
I shrunk the kids. And the Thompson kids, too. They're about this big. Threw them out with the trash.
What?
They're in the backyard.
Walt Disney Pictures presents The Last Frontier.
Dad can fix us, right, Nick?
Sprinklers
I'll tell you, their size. It's a jungle out there.
Nicky, get out of there!
Now, while the professor is looking for the kids,
Just gotta keep our eyes open.
they're taking matters into their own hands.
I say that ant is ours. Onward!
They better behave themselves.
Something's very weird here.
What is it? Earthquake!
No worse! Lawnmower!
Rick Moranis is Professor Wayne Zelinsky.
Are you saying that machine
Blew up my kid?
No.
If the machine had blown up the kids, there'd be pieces of them everywhere.
Wayne, did you report some missing children?
Oh, there must be some mistake. Ours are in the backyard. Right, honey?
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
We're all the size of boogers! Dad, don't eat me!
All right, so I'm probably not imagining this is the first time you guys have seen this. I know I saw this in the theater when it came out. I remember seeing it in the theater when it came out, but is this the first time either of you have seen this one?
Oh, heck no.
No.
This is a classic from childhood.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
All right. Okay. We'll fire it up then. So what does, when you think of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, just run me through kind of just your initial thoughts. Like when you think back to this movie, I know we just watched it not that long ago, but when you think back to this movie, what are your fondest memories of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? How does it stick out for you as one where when I ask you if you've seen it, you both go, oh no, yes, yes.
When they ride the ant. I love that whole sequence.
There you go. I've got a theory that this is all part of the MCU, and that's actually a ancestor of Anthony from Ant-Man.
Nice. I just remember like all the, getting really dirty and like falling in mud puddles that really weren't mud puddles, but a splash of water would make a mess, falling in the bug pollen, just all those things that, it's kind of like the Double Dare show in a movie, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It had kind of that Double Dare vibe to it because you're sliding into like the Cheerios, or you're in the, you're digging into the giant, Hostess cupcake or oatmeal cake or whatever it was, and just all these different things that you would see in that Double Dare show. But I think too, part of it was after watching it now as an adult, when I kind of look back on it, I think this is really part of a progression for us as kids. Like we had the TV show Double Dare, and you had this that kind of went along with it, and this really is kind of with the way the action is and the special effects, this is kind of a precursor to a Jurassic Park almost.
Yeah, it almost does kind of have that vibe.
Like it's like they're getting us ready for a Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We're just gonna start with ants and sprinklers.
Right. I kind of had the feeling in rewatching this movie was like, wow, this really truly was kind of like not the last gasp, but maybe the last gasp of like the 1980s. Oh man, the parents are out of touch and the kids have to solve the problem and all that kind of thing. Like the kids are off on an adventure. Although this one seemed different because the parents did well. I guess they had that in like The Great Outdoors as well, where the families all came together and whatnot. But that was, I don't know. And just watching this, I'm like, oh, I totally see how this fit into like the whole 1980s as a style period, because it had so many of the traits of it. But I maybe this maybe was one of the first movies that I saw kind of from the theater, and I didn't process that, oh, this is sort of like the Goonies, the kids are off on an adventure, or a John Hughes movie where the parents are clueless, or you know what I'm saying? It was I don't know, it was just kind of fun to watch this in a historical context.
Yeah, Bo, what about for you? You said that this is a favorite from childhood. What kind of sticks out to you as like why this is so memorable?
I think just the whole concept of it, them trudging through the yard, that's an interesting way to phrase that question too, because I can't really put my finger on one thing. I think it's just the concept of the movie. It's the whole thing. It's the fish out of water aspect of it. The yard was a safe place, but when you become like a microscopic, there's suddenly things are dangerous.
Yeah, are things that you sweep out of the way.
That's a much better way to put that.
Well, I mean, it was your idea. I'm not.
No. You are articulating my thoughts much better than I was. Thank you.
It's a group effort, man. It's a group effort.
Yeah.
Well, think of it like when we were kids. Think of how, I don't know if you guys did the same thing, but I remember, playing out in the yard when I was a much younger kid, but playing out in the yard, and, every once in a while you'd find a bug or something and you'd kind of play with it, or you'd follow it a little bit as it was just going about its business. And then, you'd like the bug would go from like the sidewalk to the grass. And then you're like, wonder what's going on down there. Because I can't really see anything. I mean, the grass is it's not super thick, but I'm like, there's like this hole, and then you just kind of part some of the grass back, and you'd be like, oh, look at that. There's other stuff down here. There's dirt. Oh, look, a Lego. I didn't know what that was. Or, just random stuff like that. I feel like there would be times as a little kid that you would discover these really tiny little things, or you'd kind of wonder, what would it be like to be that small and get down there and see what these things look like. When you first started to realize that, hey, to this ant or this bug, I'm super huge. So what would it be like if I was like the same size as this thing? I feel like, sometimes you do that as a kid. You'd kind of play that way, or you'd just at least get it in your mind of, trying to imagine what would this be like.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like that's the path this movie takes, is it says, okay, well here, that's what we're doing now, is we're showing you, this childlike wonder of, hey, what if I could be as small as these things that I play with? Or, I think for me, part of what made this particularly memorable was not only do we see it in the theater, but not too long after this came out, we went as a family to Disney World for the first time. And at their, they at the time, I think it was called MGM Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids land that they it was like it was like a playground play area. And you could climb on the leaves, like the slides were leaves, and you could climb on all this stuff. And they had a giant ant statue. And I vividly remember, in fact, I think I have it on an old video that my dad took when we were there, of us running around the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids land. And it's like it looked like you were in the movie as soon as you got there. And I vividly remember that and thinking that was so cool. And then having that kind of come right off the heels of having seen the movie. So it was kind of like, I think it'd be kind of like a kid now. If you saw Star Wars for the first time and then your parents took you to Galaxy's Edge, at one of the Disney World parks, it would just blow your little mind.
Right. I'm glad to hear you mention the park, because I was thinking about that too. When we got there, it was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the movie,
That had to be so cool.
It was, and I remember it being totally brand new. It was very busy because it was just brand new. I think they had just opened it, and I remember having to wait a little bit to get in there, but it was totally worth it.
Mm-hmm. That is not something I ever did. That sounds pretty cool.
So, do you have a favorite scene in the movie? Kind of as they go through their adventure, they get shrunk down. Obviously we've got the dynamic between the kids that, the two kids from one family and the two kids from the other family, and they kind of see each other as, the nerdy ones are nerds and the other ones are kind of brutish barbarians, I guess, for lack of a better term, that, and they have to kind of team up as they go off in this adventure now that they've been shrunk down. Is there, as you kind of get into the story and the situations they get into, I know you already said that, riding the ant was one of them, but are there things in particular about this movie that you just look at and you say, that. Like if I was in this situation, I'd want to do that exact same thing.
Flying on the bee was pretty cool, even though that was kind of the, the bee was kind of the bad guy. I don't know if I'd like to do any of it. I thought the scene where the sprinkler was on and they had to dodge the water droplets, I just thought that scene was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty neat. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily would want to go through that, huge droplets of water coming at me, but I thought that scene was pretty cool. And I liked the message of the movie. The kids all kind of, and all four of them were really different, because the sister was part of the popular crowd, and the younger brother was kind of the little bit more of the brainy kind of thing. And then the other family, the younger brother was kind of like following in the dad's footsteps, real into sports and the tough guy and all that. But the older brother wasn't, he quit the football team. And I want to say, wasn't he intimidated by the sister because she was part of the popular crowd and he wasn't? So I thought that was kind of neat, and how the kids all overlapped and came together. And I don't know, I just think that was pretty cool. And in the end, they all hang out together. And as an adult, that's the kind of thing that I liked.
Yeah, I think just being able to see just the whole world, like what this looked like, and being able to get to see kind of the special effects of it all. And, I wouldn't have known it at the time, but Joe Johnston, this was his first movie that he directed. But, he was one of the ones that did a lot of the design work on the Star Wars movies. The original trilogy, he designed the Boba Fett costume. He designed a lot of the ships. So he had he was very much, I think at the beginning, kind of you consider more of like a design special effects kind of guy. And that clearly comes through in a movie like this, somebody that has to design what would the world look like if you were the size of an ant, if you were smaller than an ant, what would the world look like to you? And I think watching it today, you get a little bit of a sense of, okay, well, these are, I'm watching this on my high def TV, and I can clearly tell that a lot of these props are foam and, something that was manufactured to look like a giant blade of grass. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't really lose any of that magic because of that.
No. And I think the story carries it. That's where for me, the special effects kind of are secondary to what's the story being told. And does this movie hold up? I really think so. And I was, to be honest, I was very pleasantly surprised that I'm reminded about how good this movie was. And I didn't watch this with the family, but this is like on the list. Like, it's like, you know what? This weekend, this might be the family movie this weekend. I just, sure, maybe the special effects weren't up to snuff with today's whatever, but the story really carried it, and the actors and so forth. So I think it definitely held up and all of that.
Yeah, I think it's the, like you said, it's the story of this. It's really kind of the interaction with the kids and how they start to get along and work together as a team more. There were definitely, I remember vividly watching this movie and just being genuinely terrified, like a kid level of terrified of, well, this kid's allergic to this stuff. What happens when he gets introduced to this that he's allergic to, and he's that small? Will it just kill him? Or he's about to get eaten in the bowl of Cheerios. This kid's about to get eaten. And to this day, if I ever see a bubble in the middle of my Cheerios, I'm always very careful to make sure there's not anything in it.
Mm-hmm. It's not one of your kids.
Well, right. And I'm sure I will sound like a madman when I say this, but I have that thought every time I see a bubble in the middle of a Cheerio. Mm-hmm. Is it like, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? There might be a kid in there. Just check it real fast before you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So for that to be lodged in my brain all these years later, even as a 30-whatever-year-old,
mm-hmm.
The movie clearly did its job.
Yes.
So there were a couple of interesting things. As I mentioned before, this was Joe Johnston's first director job on a movie. He had plenty of other jobs, design work in Star Wars, things like that. Couple other interesting things about this movie. It was one of the movies that featured the short films. They did a bunch of Roger Rabbit short films, mm-hmm. kind of around the same time that the Roger Rabbit movie came out. And I remember those, and I remember seeing those along with these movies. And I think that as a kid, it made me think that they were going to do another Roger Rabbit movie.
Okay.
Like you'd see these play in front of them. They had, I want to say there was 2 or 3 short films that they ended up doing, and this one was pulled it up here on IMDb. This one was called Tummy Trouble, and it's Baby Herman swallows his rattle.
Okay.
And Roger Rabbit has to take him to the hospital so they can get it out, and then of course you have a whole bunch of kind of slapsticky hospital gags. And I think Jessica Rabbit was probably a nurse, if I had to guess.
Because why not?
Because why not? Hello, nurse. Yeah, so I remember that. I remember seeing that kind of short film before this movie. The one thing that I didn't know about that I saw here on IMDb is that in one of the earliest versions of the script, there were 5 kids, and one of them died during the sprinkler sequence. I think that would have changed this movie just a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, because you feel like these kids are in danger, but at the same time, nobody dies, and nobody gets seriously hurt in this movie, and that's what keeps it as a kids movie. I feel like if you had 5 kids and one died, that goes down a path that I don't know. Yeah, that decidedly different movie. I'm always amazed by how many different versions. You always hear that. Oh, we thought we'd try this, and that didn't work out. And, it's just someone thought it was a good idea at the time. And, boy, I'm glad there's people to tell them no. Right. Yeah, a couple of things I saw in here. This one I appreciated as a former English teacher. Although I'm not sure you're ever a former English teacher. I think it's just always there. And I appreciate their acronym as well. The Society for the Preservation of the English Language and Literature, or SPELL. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which actually I believe is an offshoot of the Grammar Nazis. So I don't know if that's I think that's like their version of Spectre. They awarded Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with their 1989 Dunce Cap Award, citing the title's grammatical error, using the word shrunk instead of shrank. So if it's grammatically correct, it should be Honey, I Shrank the Kids. However, they point out on here, they say Disney executive did respond that the incorrect usage was on purpose because it directly references a line of dialogue in the movie. Yeah. So there. Shrunk, shrank, who cares?
Shrink, shrank, shrunk.
There you go.
I'm going to talk with another 21st century kind of ism here, and I'm going to use standards-based language, and I'm just going to say that hearing that like exchange right there, it just sounds like all parties met expectations.
Yeah.
I think, yep, that just sounds about right.
Yep. Here's another fun one. The film's original title was Teeny Weenies.
They totally should have gone with that. That would have been so good.
Because now I wish that, in an alternate universe, here we are recording our 262nd episode of the 30-something movie podcast in which we discuss the movie Teeny Weenies.
I am going tonight on the incognito window and looking up Teeny Weenies. I'm just saying, yep. I'll let you know what I find.
I don't know if you should do that.
I'm not on a work computer.
Don't do that.
Well, yeah, that is, yes.
Yeah. Nope, that's a big no-no. All right, let's see. Anything else here? Oh, this one had a good dog in it. You had Quark was the dog's name in this movie. Mm-hmm. We could have included that last week on our list of movie dogs. And then originally one of the first people that was kind of in line to play the dad, Wayne Selinsky, was actually Martin Short.
Oh, okay.
So that could have been interesting.
Yeah, that would have been. I think he would have done a pretty phenomenal day. He would have brought his own something to it, but I think he would have done just as good. But Rick Moranis was perfect.
Yeah. So is there anything, before we jump into our 5 questions, is there anything about this movie that you don't like, or that when you watched it this time around, you're like, yeah, that worked for me as a kid, but not this time? Is there anything in this one that does not work for?
Not that I can think of.
Maybe the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, other than that,
yeah, I have a hard time finding anything that I would say, no, that doesn't work for me anymore, or that's a pretty weak part of the story. I mean, like anything, it's going to have its strengths and weaknesses, but there's not really anything. When I watched this with the kids, we watched this maybe a couple years ago now with the whole family, and the kids loved it. They thought it was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And it was just enough, for both of the kids. It made them just squeamish enough when you had kind of like the kissing scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So as a parent, that's always fun to watch too. So no, I can't think of anything. It's not a movie that I would sit there and say, hey, I'm going to give this movie, 5 stars out of 5 stars. But I can't think of anything I don't like about it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'd give it a perfect score for anything, but there's nothing I can look at and say, no, that falls short for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think given special effects of the time, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Given that it's a kids movie and we're trying to figure out how to get out of the backyard, it does what it needs to do.
Yeah, and the special effects were cool, but it wasn't like just a vehicle to show special effects.
And my son, who is a huge baseball fan and baseball player, really appreciated that the difference that it made was that it was a baseball, and that's what got everybody shrunk. It was the power of baseball that kept everybody from exploding.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, let's jump on into our 5 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
You've got to ask yourself one question.
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. And may God have mercy on your soul.
5 questions this time around. Question number 1, if you were shrunk or shrank, or if you shrank, or... All right, well, I guess I'm getting the 2019 Dunce Cap Award. If you shrank, what setting would you like to be dropped into? At least one of my children immediately said the cookie jar.
Okay.
An excellent choice.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like inside of a supercomputer or something.
Oh, okay.
Just to see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go along your lines. I'd like to go inside like an internal combustion motor, just kind of like see what that's all like.
Very cool.
So the rest of my family, John's comment was he would like to, we have in a kind of like a workshop garage type room that we have kind of towards the back of our house, detached room from our house. We have these big tables set up, and when Sharon was a kid, she used to have this entire Lego city set up.
Cool.
And John and Sharon have been kind of working together on that to kind of get it back to what it used to be. And a few years ago, it was a little bit more built up than it is now. I think just because of life and busyness, it now looks like a lot of the scenery from, it looks a little bit like the end of the movie The Day After Tomorrow. It's not really in great shape right now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the buildings are in a little bit of disrepair, but that was John's response. He's like, well, if we had our Lego city built back up the way it used to be. He's like, I'd like to be dropped in the middle of the Lego city.
Cool.
Sharon's response was, we had gone, it's maybe about a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer than that. We had gone to the Art Institute of Chicago, and they had an entire exhibit on tiny rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And they had those artists that would do those miniature versions of rooms in these like castles and fancy mansions, and that they're little tiny replicas of rooms from actual buildings. So she said she wanted to be dropped into that setting. I said a mini golf course.
Okay, there you go.
Because I figured there's going to be just enough craziness in a mini golf course that you can have all kinds of fun.
Oh yeah.
It was then pointed out to me that every time someone putts, it's going to be like the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that's okay.
True. Just make sure that you speak Jovito.
That's true.
Wasn't there was a Deep Space Nine episode where they shrunk down one small ship or something, and then that was kind of fun because they were flying around in the shuttlecraft and they were like fighting against the Dominion guys, but they were like the size of a fly. Mm-hmm. I thought that one was pretty cool. I think there was a Next Generation one where they did that too. Was there one? Okay. I don't know, but I just remember there was some Star Trek stories where there was some shrinkage. What?
Well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm sure on Rura Penthe in Star Trek VI. It's very cold in space, as Khan said.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. Question number 2, which kind of moves into what you were talking about, Pat. Favorite story where someone shrinks. And for this one, I'm going to go, for me, it's a little bit of a toss-up. I really love the first Ant-Man movie. So I'm either going to go Ant-Man or I'm going to go Inner Space.
Okay.
I was going to say Inner Space.
Okay.
Well, then I'm gonna stick with one of my great loves of Deep Space Nine and say the One Small Ship or This Small Ship episode.
There you
go.
I have to go back and watch that one. It's when you and I were talking Deep Space Nine a few years ago. I went through and I rewatched the entire series. And
it's just glorious.
Now I'm starting to already forget them, so I might have to just go back and revisit those.
That one's definitely worth a rewatch. Like, when you're like, oh man, what should I do? That's one of my go-tos.
Okay. All right, number 3. If you were shrunk or shrank or whatever, what would you be most afraid of?
Bugs.
Yep.
I don't like them now. I certainly won't like them if I'm the same size.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't like them when I'm a million times bigger than they are. That was my answer was specifically spiders.
Yeah. The bug thing. I think it'd be hard to be afraid of that. Hard to not be afraid of that, I would say. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Okay. All right. Question number 4. Favorite movie with a nerdy inventor?
It Happens Every Spring.
Happens Every Spring.
Great old baseball movie. Guy develops a compound that helps a baseball avoid wood, so therefore avoid a bat.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah.
Fun.
Great old black and white movie from, I don't even know. You know what? Let me get the year. I do have this fancy internet thing in front of me.
Yeah, I pulled it up. It's 1949.
There you go.
Okay. I have never heard of this movie before.
Oh, so good. I haven't seen it in years because for the longest time I had trouble finding a copy of it. We had a VHS copy, but no way to watch it.
Well, it looks like there may be a full copy of it on YouTube.
Oh, there we go. I'll have to check that out. I think
actually, that's not. If it's the YouTube copy says it's about an hour and 11 minutes, but here it says the duration should be 1 hour 27, so maybe not.
Yeah. I did finally find a DVD of it at some point. Paid a lot more money for it than I probably should have to give to my dad for his birthday one year.
Nice.
Yeah. Great movie.
Always, for having a son that loves baseball, I'm always looking for good baseball movies, so I'm sure he would.
So good.
I'm sure he'd enjoy this one. All right, well, that's going on the watch list. Amazon says you can pick up a copy for $10.
Oh, that's not bad. So. They must have done a reprinting because I paid far too much money for that copy.
Okay.
This is a long time ago now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? It might be. No, it might be a digital copy. It may not be a DVD.
Ah.
That's what it looks like. It looks like it's a digital download. You can buy a DVD for about $17.
Well, that's not too bad though. I think I paid closer to $30 for it.
Okay.
Which at the time I was like, God, for a DVD of a movie this old, but it was worth it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what one time I was looking for a copy of War of the Worlds, the old 1954. Yeah, I think 54 version of it. And I had a copy of the DVD. I found it somewhere for about $10. And then I was looking again at one other point. I think I lost my copy, but I didn't. I ended up finding it. But not my copy that I had, but an original printing of the first DVD of the 54 War of the Worlds was selling for like $130.
Yeah, isn't it ridiculous? Sometimes you find these things and
like that's crazy. It's like we're not even talking an original print of the film. We're talking a DVD. Yeah, favorite movie with a nerdy inventor. Everybody around the dinner table when I asked them this question, everybody immediately said Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, that's a really good answer. I'm gonna go. I'd either go Back to the Future or the other one you could do. Well, he's not. I don't know if I'd say he's an inventor. I guess he is. He's a little bit more of a mechanic, but I've said repeatedly I love the movie The Rocketeer, and Joe Johnston ended up directing The Rocketeer. I like Peavy, the mechanic that's in The Rocketeer.
Yeah.
So I'd pick him as one. Now, God bless Nora. She when I asked this question, everybody else said Back to the Future, and she just kind of smiled and said, "Young Einstein."
Okay.
So I said, okay, you know that wasn't a good movie. She's like, no, it was a great movie. I love that movie. I said, oh, okay. we have
no
more
accounting for taste.
We have more movies to show you. But I told her, I said, hey, you know what, Nora? 8-year-old me would have agreed with you.
There you go. Right.
30 years later, I've learned a few things, but...
Was Doc Brown really a nerdy inventor? Because that was my first thought, too.
Mm-hmm.
Or was he just more of an eccentric?
Yeah, I mean, guess we could stretch it a little bit. You could say nerdy/eccentric. Did you share yours, Pat? Did you do yours already?
Well, I mean, Doc Brown, that would be real easy to throw that one out there. I guess I could also say, I forget the guy's name, but the Flubber movies. I don't know. Did you ever see Flubber?
Mm-hmm.
Those movies were fun.
The newer ones, wasn't that Robin Williams?
Oh, it might have been. I never saw the newer ones. But Flubber, I like those Flubber movies. Mm-hmm. I would say...
Was it Jerry Lewis in the old ones?
It might have been.
Wasn't that the Nutty Professor?
Oh, am I thinking of the Nutty Professor? I probably am.
Yeah. Flubber was a slightly different thing. But yeah, that was another old-time one. Otherwise, I would just say like any one of those, any movie where they invent something cool, where you've got like the scientific guy that, makes it all run, makes it all.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. The absent-minded professor.
Absent-minded professor,
like the original Flubber. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Got it. Okay, so that's what Flubber was in. Was the thing that the absent-minded professor created. Okay, I knew I didn't quite have the name right.
Yeah. Yeah, but when they did the remake of it in the 90s, it was Robin Williams, and they just called it Flubber.
That's okay. Therein is my confusion.
All right, last one. Question number 5, favorite Rick Moranis role. And I listed everything out on a sheet of paper, and I think I ultimately came up with, I'm going to go with Dark Helmet.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
I mean, how do you not?
Yeah. Because I looked at it, I was like, okay, Ghostbusters, yeah, he's great in that. And then, we just watched Parenthood, he's good in that one. And then I kept going through everything, and I was like, he's really great in all of these.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of my favorite one in a movie where he's got a role where it's a big part in the movie, because sometimes he doesn't have that big of a part in some movies. He's a supporting actor, but in Little Shop of Horrors, I was going back and forth, I think, between Little Shop of Horrors and Spaceballs, but I think I ultimately got to go with Dark Helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty classic.
Yeah, it's just too iconic. It's
Yes.
And that is why evil will always triumph.
Because good is dumb.
Oh, man. I was about to say, when are we going to watch that one? But we did that one like 2 years ago.
I was saying, been there, done that. But, when will then be now? We can do it again.
Right. We can rewind it, and I'll go to the podcast library, and we'll pull out Spaceballs, the podcast.
You know what? That should be the premiere episode of 30-something movie podcast After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could...
30 podcast After Dark Helmet.
Yeah, see? You're thinking.
Sometimes, yeah.
You're thinking.
I have moments.
I'm keeping quiet because I'm just going to start quoting that movie. And you will hang up on me from this phone call, and I'll still be quoting that movie.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all.
Why don't you go back to the driving range and practice your putts? A golf course and practice, whatever.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's amazing. It's a combination of my luggage. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So if you want to find out more about our show, you can go to 30podcast.com. It's got our voicemail number. It's got our Twitter account, Instagram, all those other places where we happen to be online. And you can check all those out. Check out the episodes on our podcast. If you want to go over to our Letterboxd page, there's a link to that there. If you want to, I've kind of finalized the list already or mostly finalized the list of movies already for next year. But if you want to go vote, there is a spot where you can go vote on the movies for next year. And that can help us out if we get a whole bunch of votes for a movie that may not be on the list right now. I'll make some arrangements. We'll see what we can do. And I do want to say, like, right off the bat, there are so many movies in 1990 that I wanted to make it on the list. And there were some that just I still want them to be on the list, or there are some that I've never seen before. And when I read up the synopsis, I was like, oh, well, that would be kind of cool to talk about and watch. So just as always, we there's only a certain number of Wednesdays in the year, and we do have full-time jobs beyond the podcast. So we do as best we can, but we are definitely going to miss some movies that I'm sure people would love to hear about. If that's the case, hey, maybe we do start up the 30 podcast after dark, and we offer some extra episodes if you want to hear them, and we'll just find that extra free time somewhere in the day, or we beat somebody up and take their free time.
There you go. See, now you're thinking.
Now it was all the mobster talk, the gangster talk from the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's sort of like the Merovingian said, if you never take time, how can you truly have time?
It was Mr. Rogers.
Really? He said that originally?
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
It seemed like something wise, so I figured Mr. Rogers said it.
Whoa, deja vu.
All over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the sign that something in the Matrix just got changed.
Describe the cat. Was it the same cat? Exactly the same? I don't know. A cat walked past that door, and then another. Oh, okay. I know what I'm doing tonight. Matrix trilogy.
There you go.
I'm going to seem a little tired tomorrow at work, guys, because I'm going back into the Matrix.
I to pull back that curtain for just a second, I did go back and I kind of looked at some descriptions of the movies because I haven't watched all three of them in a while, and I was like, is John old enough to watch these yet? Because Dad needs an excuse to go back and rewatch them. I do think we are at the stage where we're just about ready to watch the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. So,
oh yeah,
I think we're there now, but I don't know if they're quite ready yet for Matrix.
Yeah, I don't know though. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, here's a complete tangent. Back to question 4.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty Inventor. Q. I'm going to just take James Bond.
Oh, there you go.
There you
I
go.
think
Well done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Done.
Okay,
well done, sir.
You win.
I just thought of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is a perfect one. You know what? So you win, and the prize this week is you get to edit this episode.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Could you imagine one of these things with me editing it?
I'd tune in for that.
I don't know. You want to try? I'll send you the file. We'll have a contest.
It's amazing with something like that, how when you're the guy who does it on a regular basis, how you can speed through it, and someone who doesn't just.
Well, if this proves that I shouldn't be editing it, I just accidentally hung up on the call. So I think that, yeah.
Well, we could have a contest. I can send you the file, and we could just, we can see what's what.
Right. Can I fill out a tech ticket for that one?
No.
Okay.
Oh, well, no, let's put it this way. You can fill one out.
Yeah.
I now have the power to close those down automatically.
Oh, there you go. Auto denial.
Anything I don't want, I just have to create a rule in there and just say anything that comes from Pat Canagallo immediately resolved.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I will freely admit that that would probably be a disaster if I tried to edit all that kind of stuff. Or it would just it would not be done in a timely manner. So,
well, and that's the thing too, and that's why sometimes when these episodes come out, the grand total of my editing is oftentimes, hey, here's the audio for the trailer. Yeah, I put that in after the fact. There you go. Enjoy.
Right.
Because sometimes, as they said in Jurassic Park, sometimes life gets in the way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Okay, I think it would be something I would like to do, because, like I said, I mean, growing up, I liked. And you tell me if I'm just. You can feel free to laugh at me. And again, I'm saying this, and this whole thing came up. It was self-deprecating. Like I would be like a disaster if I had to edit this thing. I mean, but I think if I had time to like, just that it, and I could sit and kind of fuzz. I think it might be something I'd like because growing up, I always used to love building models, I like, when work, as long as I know what I'm doing, working on the cars or like taking things apart and putting them together, I like doing that. And the little bit I've seen of editing, it's, I could see where, it's kind of like fitting all that together, but that being said, those things that I just listed, are definitely high skill skills I don't have. So I don't think I would be good at it in any stretch of the imagination, but I think it would be just something that would be fun, editing things together like that would be fun. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like it's editing the stuff for this show, and then sometimes the things I'll do for, publishing things for our school district and whatnot. Sure. I have no clue what I'm doing, or at least when I first started doing these things, I had no clue what I was doing at all. So the fun part of it is me just sitting down and kind of stumbling through it, and then after about 3 hours, I sit there and go, "Oh, I learned how to do that."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of cool. And usually every time I sit down to go edit something, I learn some shortcut, or I learn something like, "Oh, I can do this now." Awesome.
Right.
So that part of it's fun.
Cool.
It's just when it's when it's like, if I haven't got the episode out yet and it's like 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night and I'm sitting there going, these episodes are supposed to come out on Wednesday, aren't they? I haven't sat down to start editing this one, have I? Yeah.
Oh, well.
Looks like it's going to be a Thursday special.
Mm-hmm.
30 podcast after Wednesday.
There you go.
Or Saturday night special. That'd be even worse.
Saturday night special. There you go.
Lynyrd Skynyrd song could be our theme song. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this time. So if you want to come on back here, our next episodes, don't know what order they're going to be in because Jeff and I are still trying to work that out. But we're going to be doing Little Mermaid, Little Monsters. So there's a bunch of little stuff going on. We had Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and now we're getting into the Little Mermaid, Little Monsters. And then after that, we get some real monsters with Celia, Pet Sematary, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Leviathan, and Shocker as we head on into October. So looking forward to getting into those movies. I'm a big horror fan. So I know Pat's not, but Pat, you're a trooper every October.
He's a trooper.
I'll just have to step it up, man. I'll just have to make it happen.
And I'm going to, I'm going to find some truly scary stuff someday just to kind of throw at you. And have you ever seen the movie Event Horizon?
No, was that the one where they like open the rift to hell or something like that?
Yes, they do. Okay. And every time
one of the creepiest movies I've ever watched.
And even to this day, every time I go to sleep, that rift opens in my dreams every night because it's that terrifying.
Huh.
The first time I saw that movie, I probably didn't sleep for at least 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
And I was a big horror movie fan at the time, so
scared the pants off you.
So and then those pants ran into my room and told the rest of the pants, and they all ran out of the house screaming. It's about like that.
Yeah,
that's the way it goes.
That's a rough one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can't wait till we get to that one. That's probably like 8 years away, but I think it was 97 maybe. But we'll get there eventually. All right. Well, until next time, thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight.
Thank you, John, for coordinating and editing and all the things you do.
Always
seriously.
Always fun to talk movies with you guys.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, when things are looking pretty grim, it just fun to look forward to.
As the Merovingian said, when things are looking pretty grim, it's time for the 30 podcast again.
There it is.
I don't think he said that.
I doubt it.
It was probably Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers says most things.
He's a lot of stuff. If it sounds wise, it was probably him.
Yes.
All right. Well, as Mr. Rogers also once said, be excellent to each other and go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.